Welcome in to Locked On Knicks. Alex Wolf and Gavin Shaw here. Your Knicks win 128-92 prime time on Friday night. Knicks against the Philadelphia 76ers, one of the better teams in the East. Crazy game, especially when you consider OG Anunoby and Julius Randle didn't have their best shooting games either. So two of your top five starters don't even have a great game. Plenty went well for the Knicks, including Jalen Brunson, Quentin Grimes, Josh Hart, Deuce McBride hitting 4 threes in a row. All kinds of crazy stuff. We're talking about it next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine. And this week, we truly do mean daily, because I think we've gone like 8 straight days with an episode right now or something with the Anunoby trade and everything that has followed. But if you're not already, make sure you hit the notification bell on YouTube or the auto download function on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode when we do go 8 days in a row. Or at minimum 5 days a week. So we're here for you guys all the time. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm the editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find at strick.land. He's Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. And your New York Knicks are really playing like your favorite team's favorite team right now. 128-92 over the Sixers. And Gavin, you want to talk about a game where, I mean, the Knicks did not have everything going for them in this game. You and I both ended up watching the ESPN broadcast through one means or another. And I wish I could have seen Clyde Frazier's return to MSG TV, but that'll have to wait till tomorrow, I guess. But Julius Randle had his 20-point game streak broken, which could have been a big deal because they've really been relying on him and all the points that he's been pouring in lately. OG Anunoby had a really good game, like on the overall, but just from a shooting perspective, not fantastic either. 3 of 11 shooting for him, 1 of 11 for Randle. And yet it didn't matter. The role players were so good around Jalen Brunson otherwise that they just demoralized this team. I mean, there was a point on the ESPN broadcast where it hit about 7 minutes left in the fourth. And I think Doris Burke had the first comment of like, well, it looks like the Sixers are just ready to sit. Like it looks like the starters are done. So it seems like they're kind of just making a case for the reserves to get put in at this point. And shortly thereafter they did. And then the Knicks just kind of cruised this win. But this is, in a week of really good games, this was easily the most dominant one that they've had so far.
Yeah, I mean, since Christmas, right? The Bucks game, the Timberwolves game, this one, we've had 3 games of the year in about 2 weeks, which is incredible. A 36-point victory, to your point on night where Anunoby and Randle, two of your nominal big 3 combined to shoot 4 for 22 from the field. No RJ Barrett to pick you up. No Emmanuel Quickly to pick you up. The Knicks have a just disastrous stretch offensively in the third quarter. Ended up going something like 5.5 minutes without scoring a single point. Where when you live in an NBA where teams routinely score in the 130s, 140s. I mean, heck, the Knicks got to 128 tonight. Despite that, like that stands out when you don't get any points in almost half a quarter, and yet none of it mattered against the Philadelphia team that early in this game out. Just watching it, the Knicks got off to that really nice start. It was like 7-2. Philadelphia scored 8 in a row from there, and during that run, I'm a pessimist by nature. I'm quick to be pessimistic about the Knicks, so I will note that caveat. Alex, all I could think was that tonight was finally going to be the night the Knicks were going to get punished for losing 2 of the 4 creators on this team. And this defense that's top 5 in the NBA was going to lock in and just smother the Knicks. That happened in the third quarter. It didn't happen again in this ball game. That was because Jalen Brunson was exceptional early on. I thought Deuce McBride raining those 4 threes in a row to start the second quarter was game changing. I don't know any other way to put it. Like, I think if he does not make those shots, or even if he goes like 1 for 4 or 2 for 4, it's probably a different ball game. And the Knicks don't get out to that giant lead going to halftime. We don't get that ESPN clip that I hope Deuce McBride has saved forever of Nick Nurse saying, "Hey, we got to turn the water off on this guy on Deuce. You don't turn the water off on Deuce. You got to flush him." But yeah, it just exceptional by him. And then Quentin Grimes, 19 points in the fourth quarter. Like whenever there was a chance outside that third for there to be a lull, like someone else stepped up and had an incredible stretch of play. Josh Hart, like you got to mention what he did at the end of the first quarter with his rebounding, with his coast-to-coast action. I don't know, Alex, I'm throwing you a ton of options. Where do you want to start? Because this was such a team effort for the New York Knicks.
Well, before we go more in depth on the role players in the next segment and beyond, because I think that they're going to deserve a pretty large chunk of time here, I want to just like quickly give Jalen Brunson his daily dose of praise from us. 29 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, but like really just the scoring punch was it was the star level scoring punch that the Knicks needed in this game. And he only had to play 32 minutes to get up to those 29 points. Shoots 11 of 20, 4 of 9 from 3, perfect from the free throw line, 3 of 3. I really enjoyed what he did, mostly because the Sixers have a lot of guys that in different ways could give him trouble potentially. Like they have Maxey, who's quick enough to stay in front of him, who's laterally a great defender and has a good wingspan. Obviously the Knicks were interested in him the year that they wound up taking Emmanuel Quickly for many of the same reasons that they like Quickly, and that he's, a good defender. He's obviously turned into a dynamite offensive player now at this point, but he could have been a tough matchup. They had Oubre on him from time to time, and Oubre's a little longer, and can kind of bother him that way. And then he was even just once he was getting past those guys, taking it straight at Joel Embiid, who's one of the most dominant defenders in the NBA, on his best night. And a true 7-footer with a great timing around the rim, averages a good amount of blocks and everything else. And yet Brunson just kind of took every challenge and faced every defender and had a different way to cook them. And it was just kind of another virtuoso performance for him. One that stands out to me in particular was they showed it during a nice close-up of it, but it's just so impressive to see how Brunson creates space when it seems like there's none there. And, just using the strength and the low center of gravity that he has to essentially just like put Maxey's body almost up on his shoulder and then like shoulder shift him away to just like pop back and then have that super quick release to get off a midi there. It was just another phenomenal performance in an entire season and a half string of phenomenal performances of Brunson with the Knicks. But I still think it deserved shouting out first because he was the guy that made the team go tonight, at least, early on. And especially through that like third quarter when things were a little more tenuous, like he was able to put a few buckets together, which was big, when nobody could really score except for Joel Embiid during that stretch when he, padded his stats during that little stretch there. But other than that, I thought that he just had a really nice game.
Yeah, I mean, this is what watching a superstar is like. Like I know Embiid got to keep his 30-10 streak alive. I know as Brian Windhorst said on the ESPN postgame, it felt like about as empty as a 30-10 you'll see. I thought Brunson just clearly outplayed him. And honestly, like we'll talk about this later on, made a pretty good argument for why Joel Embiid should come to New York. And I know Tyrese Maxey is having an incredible year and a similar one to Jalen Brunson. But my God, was this a star performance? Like starting like late first quarter, it began clicking right from the get-go. You mentioned he went right at Embiid, but then a nasty 25-foot step back 3 that absolutely should have been a 4-point play because Marcus Morris hit him on the arm, had a rip through into just like this absurd and one finish. He got sandwiched by Maxey and Paul Reed. He was just cooking Maxey, to your point, on that step back, hit another 3 in Maxey's eye, had another crazy finish where Nick Batum probably fouled him, didn't get called. It just felt like whatever struggles he's been going through, like heading into that Chicago game, like they're gone. He's past it. He is and I guess the Timberwolves game as well. He's absolutely cooking once again and making a very compelling case to be an all-star. It was also a really nice defensive game for him. Like had this great help side strip on Tobias Harris that ended up going off of Harris's leg and out of bounds. We both love this play. The poke away on Embiid, that was part of that sequence where Doris Burke was like, all right, just get him out of here. They're already dead. Stop hitting them. That reminded me, like, he did the same thing against the Suns. And against the Suns, that was sort of a dagger moment. And that was a play I don't remember Brunson making once last year. It feels like a guy who just has a greater sense of timing defensively and just so much confidence, even on that end of the floor. And he took another charge. Just great two-way play from Jalen Brunson. I don't know how much more you can say about the guy other than the fact that he is a bona fide star. The Knicks are exceptionally lucky to have him. And it's nights like this where you're like, you know what? You kind of believe on any given night they could beat any given team. And I got to say, that was something that I didn't really think earlier in the year. And it's because of Brunson, but it's also because they have a defensive infrastructure with Anunoby that supports him and allows it to matter when he cooks like this in a way that it didn't earlier this season. Alex, we're going to keep talking about that next. We're going to get into some of the great bench performances from Deuce, from Grimes, ridiculous game from the Hart Foundation as well. But before all that goes down, I got to tell everyone about our good buddies over at LinkedIn. Oh, man. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. So I can't make an endorsement directly on the hiring side because I haven't gotten to do that, though maybe the way things are going with the pod right now, Alex, we're going to be hiring a locked on intern soon to handle doing 9 podcasts a week. But before that happens, I can talk about what it's like on the other side of things. I got such a cool opportunity through LinkedIn, and it just came from staying in contact with an old friend I worked with at the NFL, led to an opportunity to do stats on a CBS basketball broadcast, UCLA, Oregon this past week. It was so cool, and it would not have happened without the magic of LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have so many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
And today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And around New Year's, we get obsessed with how to change ourselves instead of just expanding on what we're already doing right. I know that's certainly one of my big things. You know, you're always your biggest critic, right? You always want to make sure that you're doing better, but sometimes it could be a little detrimental. Maybe you finally organize one part of your space and you want to tackle another, or maybe you're taking your supplements every morning and now you want to actually eat breakfast too. Therapy helps you find your strengths so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, I would say give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. It really is that easy, all done online, so you don't have to worry about the pressures of going into an office and what if it doesn't work out? Then you got to do the whole thing over again, find a new therapist, whatever. No, in this case, it's as simple as just moving from one professional to another until you find one that you jive with. So that's very nice. So celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Gavin, we're back in, continuing to talk through this huge Knicks win. And this is one of those where, like, you can just throw a dart at the box score, and unless it lands on Julius Randle or OG Anunoby, you're not gonna hit pretty much anyone that had a anything you could consider a subpar game in this one. Uh, I think Josh Hart is the guy that we should get into next. I mean, as much as I want to talk about Quentin Grimes and Deuce McBride, Hart was crazy in this game, man. 10 points, 15 boards, 12 of those were defensive, 6 assists, shot 4-7 overall, didn't make a three, and yet for once, it didn't matter, which was good. Normally it's like, oh, Hart didn't hit a three, and like, oh man, he totally looked one off and it was annoying and blah blah blah. Also, ridiculous. I had to double take this when I looked at the box score of plus 46 in the box score in this game, which maybe had something to do with the shifts and whatever, but I think had a lot to do with the fact that part of the backbreaking effort of this game for the Knicks was Josh Hart flying in, grabbing rebounds, starting fast breaks, getting things going for the team. And I mean, those 12 defensive rebounds, like they were ones that he was essentially just like snatching out of guys' hands. Like he was running in there, getting the board, and then just getting on the move. And that's like the best part of the Josh Hart experience. Also, there was a pretty decent bench unit that was out there where they decided to throw Anunoby out there instead of the role that Randall's sort of been playing. And weirdly, it really worked. And it had a lot of Josh Hart just kind of initiating things by just penetrating to the inside and then getting the ball moving around the outside. I really liked what we saw out of him in this game. This was, I would say, much needed for Josh Hart. Much like you said, like Brunson has had some struggles here and there lately. Josh Hart has been not necessarily looking his best self lately. Like it's tough to put your finger on because he's still kind of putting the stats together and whatever, but it seemed like he was still sort of, I don't know, learning post quickly life and all that. And it seemed like that in many ways got figured out in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, the energy was exactly what the Knicks got from him after the trade last year. And you can like I put this out on Twitter, but it feels like it's a 3-year tradition now where the Knicks trade for Derrick Rose, they go on a big run. They trade for Josh Hart, they go on a big run. They trade for OG Anunoby, fill in the blank. It seems like things are heading that way. But a point I meant to make last segment was this just sort of felt like the game, a type of game that the Knicks probably don't win before the trade, or if they do win, even with like Philly's issues, like Embiid maybe not quite being 100%, Tobias Harris being hurt, maybe they win close, or maybe they win late in the fourth quarter. But that was because Philly, like at times, looked physically dominant in this game, like especially like in the early going. And I think normally you'd credit Anunoby with flipping that, and for sure he was a part of it. And we could talk about what he did in this game because it was a lot of really good stuff, even with the poor shooting. But you got to say Josh Hart, along with Isaiah Hartenstein, the Hart Foundation, first and foremost, deserve credit just from matching Philly from a tenacity, energy, physicality perspective. And to me, that's what's been missing from Hart all year. And it's not as noticeable because his effort is still like probably the best or close to the best of anyone on the floor. The issue is when he's at his very best, he's doubling everyone's effort, right? And that's what we got tonight. I mean, 15 rebounds, just an absurd number. The finishing was awesome. Like the first quarter buzzer beater, my God, like when you saw it in slow-mo on the replay, like in and out dribble, double pump, like hung in the air, waited for Embiid's arm to like cross over him and then put it in. That was ridiculous. Like his hustle back in transition. Like one time, like, I don't know if you remember this play, Alex, when Anunoby like went sprinting back and like Oubre like pumped him out of his shoes, but then Hart was there right after. And then Oubre just ended up traveling. It might've been a foul, but it was still cool. Then had like that flying, like insane chase down block in the fourth quarter. That was one of my favorite defensive plays that the Knicks have had all year. And it just happened to flash. His passing was really good. Like he threaded this like beautiful, like bouncer skimming the court to Hartenstein when he had Maxey on him for a dunk. Like some of the putbacks, the drop-offs to Hartenstein, like everything he did was on point tonight. And I think, again, this version of Josh Hart is a separator for the Knicks. It's just how often do they get him is really the only question.
Yeah, and I want to move the discussion to Isaiah Hartenstein now too, the other half of the Hart Foundation, because I thought that he had a fantastic game as well, offensively and defensively. Ends with 17 points in this game. And I mean, you want to talk about the cojones on this dude, like just taking it right at Joel Embiid a number of times and in a variety of different ways. Like I know that Embiid like weirdly just like stepped wrong and sort of twisted his ankle early in this game. And that sort of seemed to make him, not quite be himself. And then later on bump knees with someone on a play, and that seemed to also sort of throw him out of sorts. I guess we'll see like what the injury report says going forward, about what his availability is going to be and if he was actually playing more hurt than he was letting on in this game. But I mean, Hartenstein just really went after him. He first off on defense basically said, "Well, Embiid, I know Embiid got 30 points in the end, but a lot of it was during that second quarter when there was just some." The Sixers were doing an okay job of getting Embiid in situations where he could, drive in and, get a dunk or whatever. Like he got some easy points during that. But for the most part, during the key stretches of this game, Hartenstein was keeping Embiid like completely walled off around the hoop
Yeah.
and creating enough of a wall that then other players like Quentin Grimes and Julius Randle were able to step in and make really cagey plays and block the ball, steal the ball from the top of Embiid's like jump shot arc sort of thing. Like there was all kinds of good stuff going on in
Yeah,
that regard.
and Alex, real quick, he was defending with one hand behind his back because I think it was really clear. Tom Thibodeau told him, "Hey, no matter what happens, Embiid could have 50. You cannot foul out because we are completely effed if you foul out."
Yeah, and that's true too. And he did a great job with that as well. 4 personal fouls, but like that's fine as long as you don't foul out, you're good.
Yeah.
But then
Take one more.
exactly. But then on offense, I mean, just the fact that he took like a dribble drive on Embiid at one point, like put it on the floor and took it right into him and followed through on that. Another point posts him up and just like straight out muscles him down low and works for a really hard finish on the inside. I mean, he was just fantastic on offense in this game too. I thought that he gave you everything you could have ever wanted. And I mean, if things keep going this way, I just looked up. I was curious what his on-off numbers are and where he is like percentile wise. Currently, according to Clean the Glass, he's at a plus 6.8 on-off, meaning the Knicks are 6.8 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor than him not on the floor. That's good for 80th, 81st percentile among broadly just bigs right now. I don't know. Maybe he's starting to build a case where if he can keep this going, especially with all the counting stats he's putting together, another 4 stocks in this game, he might have something to say about a defensive team or something at the end of this year, and maybe get some sneaky votes in there.
Yeah, I got to say those on-off numbers probably shot up after Mitch's injuries, given who his backups are. But it is totally representative of his performance. To your point, I mean, you did a great job summing it up. All I wanted to add was he did the drive on Embiid like 2 different times. Like had that one for like a lefty layup, and I was like, wow, like that made me think Embiid was hurt. Because normally I do think he would get to that. And then the post up you mentioned, I mean, that was sick. Like it was clear Hartenstein wanted to pass the ball, because he just kind of paused and was like looking, and then realized no one was there. And he just kind of said, screw it, like rapid pivot, like muscled into him, put some backspin on it, got it, and then came down and swatted Embiid at the rim. Like, how many times is this going to happen? It happened with Gobert. It happened 5 times against the Chicago Bulls. And now on Joel freaking Embiid. I mean, he is just fearless. Like our buddy Schwinn put out a tweet, like just saying he's a foxhole player. Like I totally agree with that. He was closing playoff games at times for the Knicks last year for a reason. Like I almost don't care what it takes, what the number is. Like the Knicks need to keep this guy long term. Like he's someone you want as games get more and more competitive. And I think having just a variety of skills and things you can do becomes more and more valuable. Like I think Isaiah Hartenstein only becomes more necessary to have on your team as you get further and further along in the season and in the postseason.
Yeah, I'm with you, Gavin. And I think it's about time we talk about Quentin Grimes and his little 19-point fourth quarter already, which surprised the both of us. But first, before we get into that, I'm going to let everyone know about our new friends over at Hungryroot. And if you're trying to eat a little healthier in 2024, Hungryroot is here to rescue you from short-lived resolutions by making meal planning easy and nutritious. Very important to get both. Build healthy habits that won't disappear by February with Hungryroot. Hungryroot is the easiest way to get fresh, high-quality food delivered to your door. They've got healthy groceries and simple recipes all in one place. All you'd have to do is take a fun short quiz, and Hungryroot will let you know, it will get to know you, your goals, and how you like to eat. They'll ask you what flavors you like, which kitchen appliances you use, and more. And then they'll keep your needs and preferences top of the mind and start building your cart with delicious recipes and all your grocery needs for the week. Hungryroot will recommend recipes and groceries based on your taste. So take the suggestions or choose anything you want. You could do whatever you're feeling any given week. They've got fresh produce, high quality meat and seafood, pantry staples, healthy snacks and sweets, and much more. And Hungryroot goes beyond your weekly grocery haul with thousands of easy recipes that actually put your groceries to good use before they get forgotten in the back of your fridge. The best part is Hungryroot follows a simple standard. It's got to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredients. So spend less time meal planning, shopping, and cooking, and more time enjoying healthy food that you'll actually love with Hungryroot. Right now, Hungryroot is offering Locked On NBA listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Who doesn't love free veggies for life? And with the New Year's resolution, just go to hungryroot.com/locked on to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/locked on. Don't forget to use our link so they know we sent you. All right, Gavin, it's about time to talk about Quentin Grimes and his 19-point explosion. Talk about how impressive Josh Hart's plus 46 was. Quentin Grimes ends with a plus 37 in this game. He got a little bit more of the garbage time to pad the stats and generally make that number a little more inflated. So that goes into this. But I mean, it was impressive for him. He makes 4 out of 9 threes, got to the free throw line 3 times, was in transition, was getting all the way to the hoop. I mean, this is everything that we've wanted to see out of Quentin Grimes all in one quarter, basically. We both looked at the box score afterwards. And we're like, I can't believe he did all that just in the fourth. I thought he made a 3 at some other point. Apparently not, but he didn't necessarily, the process wasn't bad all game, but the process certainly paid off in the fourth quarter and it paid off big for him.
Yeah, he was awesome, and I hope this is the start of a big run for him, because I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking to someone about it, and they were just kind of saying, like, all right, like maybe OG has a little bit more in him to be a creator, and this is maybe a conversation for another day, but I kind of just think OG Anunoby is who he is offensively, and they're getting into it on the broadcast and saying, like, it's a shame because he's so strong, he's so physical, he can get to his spots in a way that almost reminds you of someone like Kawhi Leonard, but then he just doesn't have the bag when he gets there, like doesn't quite have the touch, like outside of from 3-point range. And that's not, this isn't a, like me taking the opportunity to rip on OG Anunoby. It's me taking the opportunity to say, like, I think Quentin Grimes, like, does have the skill set to be that guy who could help prop up the bench, at least until the Knicks make another move, because he has some wiggle. Like we saw him like have this really nice attack to the basket to get free throws. Like we see him in transition, like he had another like and one that capped off like that sequence of the game where it was like a 3 from Grimes and then the Brunson steal and layup and then the Hartenstein swat and then Grimes running the floor, like getting knocked to the ground, finishing anyways. That was awesome. Like he hit like I think this was his first 3 of the game, like an absolutely huge 3 where Maxey was wide open. It would have cut the lead to 10, and then Grimes comes down and makes a fairly wide open one on the other end. That basically kickstarted the run that sealed this ball game for the Knicks. Had another one off a dribble handoff, then was like feeling himself. He's like, you know what? I'm going to try a sidestep 3. That went in. Like he needs to keep up the aggressiveness. Like, I don't care if they go in. I don't care if they don't go in. He has to shoot, and shoot some more. And then I think I noted earlier, but in case it was actually something we talked about pregame, or pre-show rather, the swat he had on Embiid was just dirty. And I think him making defensive plays like that, Alex, absolutely gets him going. But Grimes was not the only bench guard to go off. Deuce McBride, who I have ripped the last few nights on this podcast, absolutely cooked the Sixers 4 threes in the beginning of the second quarter. Alex, I don't know about you. It's about the loudest I've been all season, outside of like maybe some game winners the Knicks have had this year. I was losing my mind on my couch watching Deuce do that.
Yeah, it was a sight to behold. I mean, he's to the point where, certain players, they put up a 3 and you expect it to go in. Like Jalen Brunson is my number one guy like that right now, where it's like he takes that 3, you're like, okay, I think this is going in. Then does it go in, you're like, oh. But whereas with McBride, he puts it up and you're like, oh crap, this is probably not going in. And then it does go in, then you're like, ooh, look at that. And then like the second one goes in, you're like, oh man, like what's happening? And by the time the fourth one goes in, you're like, holy crap, dude, what am I watching? Like, is he having an out of body experience? Like, what is happening right now? But yeah, it was exciting. I will say, I don't want to like immediately like rain on the parade here or anything. I still have sort of my same worries about him running that second unit. That said, if he could shoot like this and you can keep having like Randall out there, and if you can keep playing like a cut heavy offense, if they do the minutes without Randall, and have like Hart and Anunoby and whoever else you want to throw out there as the fourth guy in addition to either Hartenstein or Precious out there, like cool. Like if Deuce could hit the shots, then the defense that he's going to add is going to be huge. And then you can, I guess, just figure out playmaking, maybe give Dante a little bit more run with the second unit, let him and Hart kind of, democratically handle the ball there. Let Grimes handle the ball some, which you were just talking about. And I don't know if I'm totally sold on that either yet. But, and then have Anunoby out there as a shooter, pretty much have just shooters all around the floor. If Deuce is one of those shooters, that's huge. He did still, and this is the part that still gives me a little bit of pause. He struggled breaking down the defense. I thought like he was able to start the process of like doing like the quickly style move of kind of like dragging a guy across the lane sort of, and starting to sort of make that move, but he just doesn't have that like little extra wiggle yet to like get inside, get the guy on his hip or something, and create an opportunity that way. He still gets walled off from the inside of the paint, and that's the biggest problem with Deuce to this point still. But just the spot up shooting looked really comfortable in this game. And that's a huge development in and of itself. If he's going to be getting more time, and if the Knicks aren't going to make any move imminently to, add another like relatively big name to this team, use Evan Fournier's salary in some way or something, then, he's going to get a lot of on the job training and get some opportunities to shine like this. And hopefully the more he does that, then the more he'll start handling the ball and maybe trying to run some pick and rolls and generate those, switches and opportunities to, actually find himself getting all the way inside. Cause we've seen him be decent at finishing at different points in his career too, whether it's like the G League or Summer League or whatever. So we'll see, but very solid step in the right direction in this game tonight, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the shot making was awesome. And we heard this was the second straight broadcast, because I like you watched the ESPN one tonight. But Alan Hahn mentioned on the MSG broadcast last game where they mentioned like Tibbs driving home, like he's a better offensive player than he's shown in the NBA. And obviously we know that from the G League, but the implication there, and I think Hahn actually said this directly, like what he does in practice, like has really impressed the Knicks. And I don't think the timing of his contract was a coincidence, like right after the Quickly deal. I mean, one, just because the Knicks had the open spot and like maybe a little bit more flexibility salary wise, knowing that they weren't going to have to re-sign Quickly on top of whatever else they were doing, but also that they didn't want Deuce to come out and like explode. Wow, a lot of poop jokes on this episode. And in turn, like be worth way more than 13 million for 3 years. And granted, like we don't know what's going to happen. And so, like I agree with you. Like tonight didn't really show anything more as an initiator, but I think he's a talented shooter. He showed it tonight, and you hope for more of that. But even if it's 2 for 4 instead of 4 for 4, like that makes all the difference. The Knicks are going to be, and if until they make a trade, if they make a trade, they're going to be scrapping for points with the second unit, and like any little bit helps. So I just happy that Deuce has some confidence, and once he saw the first one go down, that he kept shooting. And I'm sure Tibbs is driving that home to him over and over again. I also just thought his defense in this game was really important, like especially like in terms of the Knicks separating the second half. Like he forced Embiid to give up the ball one time with just a super aggressive double team. And you see teams sometimes like soft double Joel because they're wary of the pass. Like I'm almost of like the opposite mentality. Like he's such an efficient scorer. He gets to the free throw line so much. He's such a good passer. Like you have to send those hard doubles. And if you don't get a steal, maybe you're giving up a layup, but it's worth the risk. Deuce did that to perfection. He pulled off like a little hijack Alvarado to start the fourth quarter, like inducing a turnover by just doing this mad sprint on a sideline inbound that the Sixers, excuse me, I'm choking on Deuce's greatness. The Sixers just clearly didn't expect. That was fantastic. Alex, before we wrap up, I just wanted to shout out Dante DiVincenzo. Only got to play 17 minutes because he picked up 4 fouls pretty quickly. And by the time like he would have come back in, the Knicks were just dominating, and Quentin Grimes is playing so well that he never came out. But 4 for 6 from 3 again. Like he's now he came into this game 44% from 3. I'm going to see if ESPN's updated. Now they still have him at 44, probably somewhere around 45. 46% from 3. Like, I think it's time to start having the conversation. Like, and this is maybe for another night, another show, but like, where did the Knicks rank in terms of the best shooting starting backcourt in basketball? Because like we can go through the teams, like maybe the Bucks, just because Dame and combined with Malik Beasley, like that one's up there. Obviously, you still have to mention the Warriors, even if Clay is very inconsistent at this point. My point is, it's a short list, and it was another like sublime night shooting the basketball for Dante DiVincenzo. Plus, he had some really nice playmaking with offensive rebounds, hitting a couple cutters, including Anunoby. Like just solid game from him.
Yeah, and I'll just give my last shout outs. I got 3 little moments that I just want to shout out. First, Presh Sachua hits a 3. Cool to see. I know it's probably fool's gold, but I'll allow myself to be fooled for the moment. It's good to see that he's at least willing to pull it. and that, he's still getting some time to sort of acclimate himself. I don't know that he's going to be able to have the sort of impact at all that like Hartenstein had behind Mitch, for example, as the backup center, but I'm gaining more confidence that as he gets comfortable, he should be able to play the backup 5 going forward for the 10 to 15 minutes that the Knicks will need him to do it every night, and maybe give you a little extra wrinkle every once in a while. OG Anunoby, wanted to shout him out for one brilliant possession where he got switched on to Joel Embiid and just absolutely like owned him one-on-one.
Mhm.
It was just one of the best defensive possessions I think that any Knick has had all year, considering who it was against. Considering it's the reigning MVP who's scoring a bazillion points per game on like nonsense efficiency and everything else, and draws fouls like crazy. And OG's giving up like 4 inches of height, and still has the wingspan, obviously, but that's so tough, and just bottled him right up and ended that possession with a thud. And that's always going to be impressive if you do that against Joel Embiid. So big shout out to him for a very cool possession there. Last thing I'll shout out, I think this is a good comedy note to end on. The one thing that united this, quite frankly, Barclays Center-esque crowd in Philly tonight that seemed to be at best 2/3 Philly, 1/3 Knicks, possibly 50-50, especially by the end. The one thing that united them was Ryan Arcidiacono, Villanova standout
Oh,
and
yeah.
Knicks bench warmer, taking 1 3-point attempt late in this game in garbage time. He missed it, of course, but the collective swell in the building from every fan in attendance was really hilarious to see after most of the game was spent Knicks and Sixers fans fighting in chants the entire game, and a clear divide in that building tonight. Arcidiacono for one shining moment, united everybody, which was cool.
I can't top that, Alex. So we're going to call it incredible win for the New York Knicks. They will get back at it tomorrow night. We will have coverage for you most likely Monday morning. But until then, he's Alex. I'm Gavin. Have a great weekend. Let's go Knicks. 128-92. We'll talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.